Remember Kitzmiller versus Dover? Quote, 11 parents of students in Dover, York County, Pennsylvania, near the city of York, sued the Dover Area School District over the school board requirement that a statement presenting intelligent design as an explanation of the origin of life that differs from Darwin's view was to be read aloud in 9th grade science classes, where evolution was taught. The plaintiffs were represented by the American Civil Liberties Union, the Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and Pepper Hamilton Limited. You see what happened here? It wasn't the schools that filed the lawsuit. It was the parents against the schools. Now, I quoted from Wikipedia, but I have read extensively on this case, and I try to use Wikipedia judiciously. Now, I can assure you that as long as public funds are involved, and that includes vouchers and charter schools, individuals who care about the separation of church and state will continue to file lawsuits and to win them. If you look at the major cases at the NCSC site, which will be referenced below, you'll find no lawsuit against students. Most of the lawsuits filed in support of teaching the theory of evolution, well, some are by creationists who seem to have no compunctions about suing themselves. Those I've noted. I did take a look at the other cases, and there is one I wanted to mention. The ASCI, the Association of Christian Schools International, and some others, filed suit against the University of California. You see, the University of California wasn't accepting certain high school classes from some Christian schools, one in particular, the one in the lawsuit, as criteria for acceptance to the University of California system. This included biology classes, history and government classes, and English class. The biology classes were rejected because they were, quote, inconsistent with the viewpoints and knowledge generally accepted in the scientific community, unquote. And that's from the ruling. In the ruling, the history and government classes were rejected because they, quote, didn't encourage critical thinking skills and failed to cover major topics, themes, and components of U.S. history. And that's a quote from Judge Otero, who heard the case. In other words, no teaching of a David Barton-esque version of history. The English class was rejected because the only reading was from an anthology, and the University of California requires the reading of entire books. Why only an anthology? Well, to keep Christian students from having to read questionable parts of novels. Why is this important? Remember those vouchers in charter schools? Here we see that Christian schools are being held to the same academic standards as all other schools. They can't just teach their way without any consequences. Their graduates may have trouble getting into colleges, including state colleges and universities. How do you think the taxpayers are going to feel if the students coming from tax-supported charter schools and schools that accept vouchers aren't even capable of going to the tax-supported public colleges and universities? Will these kids end up in the community colleges to catch up on what they should have learned in the first place? That will have the taxpayers paying twice. As some states get their way with vouchers, I think we're going to see some problems and new lawsuits. So much for schools having less funds for lawsuits. Now on to 11 and 12, which I'll quickly dispatch together. 11. China, which has the largest population of atheists, is seeing an explosive growth of Christianity in both the countryside and in urban centers. 12. European creationism is growing, and secular Europe is having significant economic problems and could turn to God for answers. Again, with the creationism growing and the atheism declining. These aren't 13 original questions. So 11. Is China seeing an explosive growth of Christianity, or are they simply coming out of the closet as China loosens its reins on religion? I don't know, and neither do they. By how much is 12? By how much is creationism growing? I'd ask for reputable sources, but I know I'm not likely to get them from these folks. I'll look around some more and see what I can find, but an explosive growth might not mean what they think it means. For an example, let's just say there were 250 creationists in Sweden. Several years later, there are 500. Wow, that's an increase of 100%. That seems like a large amount, but it's insignificant when you consider the total population. Also, where does this growth come from? If it's immigration, that's not really a growth of new creationists. It's just a movement of creationists. And for the record, I have no idea how many people in Sweden consider themselves creationists. It's just that I consider Sweden a pretty secular country, so it was a good choice, I thought. And in their dreams will Europe turn to God. Besides, doesn't God help those who help themselves? Lastly, number 13. Creation scientists, an oxymoron if I ever heard one, creation scientists tend to win the creation versus evolution debates. Evolutionists are unable to satisfactorily answer the 15 questions for evolutionists of the Question Evolution campaign. This one's funny. Various people have more than satisfactorily answered the 15 questions. As I've mentioned before, I'm going to leave a link to the compilation video here that is here on YouTube, and it does a wonderful job. But you can search the internet and YouTube and find other excellent answers. The problem is with the word satisfactorily. No response will ever be satisfactory to these people unless it contains God, either explicitly or implicitly, such as intelligent design. Now, God's not explicitly an intelligent design, but it's pretty strongly implicit. I've decided to answer the 15 questions myself, as I mentioned, just for the heck of it. But to begin with, they're really bad questions. Very bad. Whoever wrote them should be ashamed, but I'm sure they aren't. I mean, they're as bad as these 13 Grimms, which are all repetitive and nonsense. Creationists win debates. Well, they either haven't seen all the debates I've seen here on YouTube and on other places on the internet, or they have a strange definition of win. They also cheat and lie in debates. No surprise here, since their websites, books, and YouTube videos are a pantheon of logical fallacies, strawmen being one of their favorites. Yes, I use the word pantheon deliberately. One definition of pantheon is an edifice constructed for a group of gods. Well, the way they adhere slavishly to their logical fallacies, you'd think they worship them. Now, I'm going to leave a link to the infamous Ray Comfort-Kirk Cameron debate with the Rational Response Squad. In the beginning, Kirk Cameron says that the existence of God can be proven 100% without the use of faith. Now, they were supposed to do this without ever invoking the Bible. Guess how long before the Bible was brought into it? Well, from the actual beginning of the debate, which starts at about 7 minutes into the video that I've referenced here, Ray Comfort mentions the 10 Commandments at about 15:25, which is 8 minutes, 25 seconds into his speech. That's the Bible. And, of course, it just gets worse from there. For those of you who've seen it, you know what I mean. So what are these 13 Grimms? Well, there's a lot of duplication, and they hardly add up to 13. We have an inability to look up sources, out-and-out lying, fantastical thinking. A Grimm 13? Only for the fools who made the list. It's pretty grim that they are lying, stupid, petty, and vicious. Did I mention stupid? And out of touch with reality. They are an embarrassment to Christians everywhere. Sadly, there are too many Christians that pay heed to these charlatans and don't do the in-depth research themselves because they are swayed by the Christian tone of the creationist work. And this is where we come to the big lie about evolution. That it's either God or evolution. You can't have both. Eugene E. Scott of the National Center for Science Education has mentioned in speeches that an anthropologist professor she knows had students come up to her after a few classes commenting on her presentation of evolutionary theory. You see, they didn't even know what evolution was. They had been taught that evolution meant that you couldn't believe in God, and were quite surprised when they found out the truth. Gee, this is a good way to make atheists and agnostics, isn't it? Lie to the kids, then they find out the truth in college. Well, but nothing can be further from the truth. Many religions, including most mainstream Christian religions, have no problem with evolution. They believe in evolution. They just believe in God as the first cause, going as far back as long before the Big Bang. Yes, I know that the Big Bang theory isn't evolution, but what most theistic evolutionists mean is God as the first cause of everything, not just the appearance of life or the diversity of life. It's not like God pointed a finger at the puddle and said, okay, start now. It's that God put everything in motion from the very, very, very beginning, whenever that was. Now, that's what I was taught, and I went to Catholic schools. And Eugenie Scott has also pointed out that there's more evolution taught in Catholic schools than in public schools. Creationists don't care about this. All they care about is promoting their unique view of Christianity, whatever it takes, whatever lies and misrepresentations and slanders they need. Another great lie they tell about evolution is that evolution inevitably leads to chaos, degradation, violence, and the diminishment of humanity. Their reason for this goes back to their God or evolution stance. To them, if you believe in evolution, then you can't believe in God. Therefore, as a godless person, you have no morals and will do anything, including genocide, euthanasia, sexual deviancy, or including homosexuality, bestiality, polygamy, as well as violence of all kind. I think they stopped short of cannibalism and human sacrifice, but I'm not sure. They probably think godless people do that too. And of course, natural disasters are God's judgment on the godless or insufficiently godly as well. They apparently missed that most hurricanes and tornadoes tend to target the Bible Belt and similar very religious areas. Gee, maybe God's trying to tell them something. Anyway, this is evil, what they're doing, simply evil. Creationists, fundamentalist Christians, tend to be very concerned with evil. I suggest they look in the mirror. To terrify people is evil. To threaten them with hell using lies and deceptive rhetoric is evil. They are evil. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to be doing God's work by being evil. Perhaps they are the ones being influenced by the devil. Wouldn't that just define irony? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Bye.